Hi and welcome back to 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝗧. Today, guys, we are going to be jumping back down into the world of Terra Luna to see what's been going on most recently and, whether there's anything positive to come out of the space. As I get into this video, if you find this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝗧. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, links in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there, so why not go ahead and check it out today. Okay guys, let's waste no more time. Let's jump right down into the desktop and take a look at everything Terra Luna today. Okay guys, so obviously we have the price. I just like to start these kind of videos with this just to give you a bit of an idea as to how bad this has been, right? So obviously this is all-time weekly chart on basically Binance, BUSD and Luna, right? So we can see a good surge up, 99.9% crash coming down. We all know the story at this point as to why, but really just want to kind of show you this as a reflection of kind of the, how do I articulate this, of what can happen to any cryptocurrency in the space, right? No matter their size, these things are possible. There's usually different variables. There won't be necessarily an exact replica of Luna going on, but other cryptocurrencies can do this under different circumstances, whether they are scam rug pulls or legitimate based projects, okay? So just keep that in the back of our heads. The other thing I just want to kind of zoom in on as well is this level of volatility that we have seen so far down here. If we can obviously go take a look. So basically, since Binance actually run this pair, and this is the Luna to BUSD pair, this is actually now showing at 53,000, so they clearly corrected that wick that came up to 178,000%, but there was a wick that came all the way up here. It was very, very brief. It lasted no more than a couple of moments before pulling back down. So whether that was a glitch or not, we do not know, but 53,000% from the moment that they listed this BUSD pair up to the upper end there. But let's go ahead and take a look at some news, because there are a couple of really interesting things that are going on, right? So basically, institutions have been flooding more than $300 million into Bitcoin funds out of Luna instead, right? So out of UST and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's important that we understand that essentially this is more of a positive kind of piece, something that is basically going on in the space. Now, if Luna was still up and running and things like that, that money may not have gone into Bitcoin funds. Of course, it may have always gone into Bitcoin funds and you just never know, right? And essentially, I think it's really hard to kind of do that. I think if anything, this article is just using the Terra meltdown as a way to kind of funnel in and get eyeballs on this piece of news instead. So I'm not really going to spend too much time on it, but I did find it was an interesting kind of title, but there isn't anything else really worth noting in the article, to be honest with you. Really, the interesting stuff comes a little bit later as we start to see about Congressional Research agencies hint at stablecoin regulation. Again, this is all following the Terra UST or USD, so this is UST stablecoin collapse, right? Now, this is an interesting one. Again, we could go through here and kind of go through all the details of it, but I won't. I'll link these into the description so you guys can have a read of this at your own leisure. But into the basic summary here, your UST, an algorithmic stablecoin issued by Terra Luna, collapsed earlier this month, which we all know, as after it kind of depegged from the US dollar. The Congressional Research Service hints that the downfall of UST could lead to regulations for the nascent industry, as some promising frameworks have already been proposed, including ones that would restrict the asset, ones that would restrict which assets could back stablecoins and establish which entities are allowed to issue them. Okay, so again, that's quite relatively strict regulation if we think about it, right? They're saying you can only have stablecoins that are backed by, let's say, US dollars, and only maybe banks are allowed to issue them, right? And who knows? I think ultimately what you're seeing here is the lead up towards CBDCs, and something like this was kind of bound to happen at some point. that there was going to be a huge catalyst as to why you want to avoid private stablecoins, and you want to basically rely on government-backed stablecoins, right? That's really the future. That's going to be the narrative that gets spun, in my opinion. So watch out for that one. But essentially, yeah, I'm not really going to go through all of that. That's kind of where they're going. They're looking for some way to regulate the space, and frameworks have been put in place. CBDCs are in the works. We already know all this kind of stuff, and the collapse of UST here is going to help concrete those regulations into place, and will basically allow allow the central banks to usher in those CBDCs, right? Those central bank digital currencies. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It is what's going to happen regardless of whether we want it to. So just kind of watch the space. But let's move on to this one. Now, this is an interesting one. Okay, is South Korea going to how do I say, like, do a bailout maybe or anything like that for Terra Luna? Interesting stuff. Definitely that's all speculation. There's nothing really kind of more about talking about it, but regulators chip in. South Korean lawmaker demands parliamentary hearing on the UST collapse. So in summary, a South Korean politician has demanded calling Terra founder 𝗕𝗓𝗪 and related exchange officials for a parliamentary hearing following the Terra USD collapse. South Korean financial regulators have called for an emergency investigation of local exchanges, right? So really interesting stuff. Now, with this, this demand for a hearing, I think essentially that hearing will probably happen, considering the scale of this this collapse, right? And I think on the back of this, there could be several things. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I am going to again link it in the description so you guys can have a look at this properly for yourselves. But should we bring related exchange officials, including the CEO of 𝗕𝗓𝗪 of Terra, which has become a recent problem to the National Assembly, to hold a hearing on the cause of the situation and measures to protect investors. Now, the important thing here is, are they talking about future issues? Are they talking about future measures required to protect against future issues with other stablecoins, or are they talking about what measures can they do to protect the investors who are holding UST at the point of depegging? Not necessarily going to be protecting anyone who is jumping in after, of course. Is there going to be some kind of buyback scheme? I mean, if we think about the 2008 financial crash, obviously taxpayer money was used to bail out the banks. I don't expect the same courtesy to be, forwarded to any crypto firm or anything like that either, though. So I don't think there's going to be like a bailout or to that effect. But it is interesting to kind of think that maybe something on the horizon could be there. But I think it's not going to happen personally. I don't think there's not much of a chance of that. But basically, you can see several exchanges here stopped trading on May the 10th, 𝗕𝗏𝗪 on May the 11th, but Upbit did not stop trading until May 13th. Upbit, which was the last to stop trading even after seeing the crash, is the #1 company with an 80% share. In just those 3 days, it earned close to 10 billion won, or $7.8 million in commission income. So you can see why the exchanges are not necessarily heavily incentivized to stop trading, right? They want to basically continue that trading if people are willing to buy, Luna or UST below their actual value, just because they're going to earn significant amounts of money in commission. And you can argue the same thing happened with Binance when they relisted it on the Binance pair, right? They wanted it on the Binance pair so that they can capitalize a little bit more behind it, right? People were going to be basically needing BUSD, for example, in order to trade. So I think it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens here, whether they get that hearing, whether they don't get that hearing, what that might mean for UST and all of that kind of stuff. So again, I'll link this into the video so you can read the whole thing at your leisure as well. But they'll see we have this one as well. And here's how to prevent the next Terra Luna collapse, according to crypto venture capitalist. Again, I'm not really going to read through all of this. I think we all are kind of familiar with how not to do and how not to have this thing happen again. Yeah, there's the right way, the wrong way, and all that kind of good stuff. I think essentially it all comes down to not being able to back things up properly, like one-to-one, by basically increasing your pool. I think it was from $293 million to $1.2 trillion, and basically just printing UST out of thin air. That isn't going to be, sustainable. And obviously, understanding the mechanics behind these algorithmic stablecoins is absolutely important, specifically with how UST and Luna work together, right? One burns to get the other one minted, and you burn the other to mint the other, right? And to mint its counterpart. So essentially, when you start to see a mass sell-off event, you're going to see significant variations, and ultimately just wasn't sustainable. So bear market conditions led to this, along with some variables that were changed in the protocol. Couple that with some other kind of random events as well that could be taken advantage of. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of things here. You could also argue whether it was an inside job, or the information getting leaked was deliberate, and who was really ultimately behind it. I think it's more important to realize that it was pretty much most of the general community that finished it off, right? It wasn't like one or two entities. I mean, as soon as you got it depegged and panic set in, that was it. It was done, right? There was no catching that snowball rolling down the hill. It was gone, right? So I think it's important that we understand that there may have been an initial catalyst to it, but it was the people that basically compounded it and made it 1,000 times worse. Obviously, you could also argue that the exchanges, had they acted quicker, and they weren't greedy for those commission fees, could have potentially stopped this in its track, right? Because that much Luna should never have been minted, right? And had all trading stopped at the point of depegging for both Terra and for Luna, UST and for Luna, then essentially this issue could be void by now, and it could have been fixed and it could have been resolved. But I do think that actually this had to happen for future developments of regulations, specifically around stablecoins, privacy coins, and CBDCs. So something to this effect was going to happen in order to really concrete those regulations in my opinion. Obviously, today is the big day for the vote of the Luna Classic and Luna Chain. So, vote away if you think you should just fork it and start again. That vote is today. So why not go ahead and cast your vote if you want to. So I'm going to leave the video there, guys. If you have found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you'll be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.